Thanks again for joining us, and let's begin. The first term we want to start with is advertisement. Quite often, people will use the term advertisement with marketing, almost interchangeably. But the thing is, they're really two different things. Advertisement, usually when I'm teaching this class in person, I say the advertisement is kind of like this is the pretty tie. The pretty tie that gets your attention. It's the pretty shiny thing that encourages you or persuades you to take interest or learn more information about the product or service. This could be a billboard or a pay-per-click ad or a radio ad or television commercial. These are the things that get your attention. Whereas marketing is really the process. What happens after we get your attention? Once we spark that interest, what do we do? How do we plan for you to interact with us? If it's an internet ad, do we want you to call us, or do we want you to click and then go right to our website? And what happens when you go to that landing page? That's the idea of the operations process behind how you deal with customers and how you bring them in and treat them and interact with them, build a relationship with them, sell to them, follow up with them. That whole piece is a marketing process. That's marketing. But the advertisement is really the thing that gets your interest and gets your attention. Okay? Next, what I want to talk about is brand. Your brand, people say, brands have value. It's very, very true. Your brand is based on all the things that you do, all the money that you spend on advertisements, all the money that you spend on pens or T-shirts or building that really pretty website, all the money you spend in training your staff so that they are saying the right things and doing the right things, all the money you put into your operation so that you have a very high quality product, or you have strong quality assurance to make sure that your service is high and your customers are happy. All that money you put into your business in order to get customers and keep customers, all those things help build your brand. And over long term, depending on the size of your company, that could be thousands or even millions of dollars. So your brand has tremendous value. So it's very, very, very important to maintain the quality and the value of your brand. And you do this with your daily interactions with your customers. You do this in the research and development that you do to improve your products and make sure that they're safe and they're giving that they're giving the effect and the outcome that you want. It's what you do to train your customer service people and your sales people so that they're saying the right things to customers and they're not over promising and not delivering. It's all these things that you do in order to keep the value of your brand. It's absolutely essential that you know its importance, you know its value, and you do everything you can as the business owner, but also you instill in your staff that this is a very important thing. This is our reputation. This is the essence of the company, and how important it is to protect that. Next, client and customer. The reason why and that might sound like a very simple concept. Of course, I know who my customer is and my client is. The reason why it's important to really understand who your client or customer is because that's who buys your product. For example, depending on what, let's pick just out of the air, let's pick a holiday. Let's say Valentine's Day. Depending on your product, your customer, the person who actually pays for the product or service, let's say it might be a man, it might be the man or the woman or the husband or the wife. If you're selling candy, on Valentine's Day, who purchases most of the candy? Statistics show men purchase most of the candy for their wives, girlfriends, significant others. So your ad for candy would probably be more directed to the man since they purchase more of the candy. So, and another example, let's say for nonprofits, quite often a company will come, an organization will come to us and say, look, we're trying to We want to offer this service to this underserved community, and we want to be able to provide this service to them. And we need a staff, we need a building, we have expenses. And so the first question I say is, okay, well, how are you going to get this money, and how are you going to provide this service? And then usually there's kind of a pause, and of course there's always a fallback of where we're going to get grants. But we always say with nonprofits to try and put together a structure and a process that focuses on as much as possible a self-supporting system, similar to what a for-profit would do. And the reason is because you can't always guarantee you're going to be able to get people to give you money. The reason why I'm bringing this up when it comes to customers is when you're building your website and you're a nonprofit, depending on who you want to reach out to, you need to appropriately address those target markets. So, for example, if you want to serve, let's say, children, let's say if you want to mentor children, and you have a website, more than likely children are probably not going to go to your website and look for mentors. It could happen, but probably not. What usually will probably happen would be maybe mothers or fathers or single parents or that kind of thing, or guardians. They would look for a mentor for their child. So the website would need to be written in a way that appeals to that target customer. Or let's say that the other target customer or are organizations that will give you money so that you can carry on your mission. So the website should have a segment that's dedicated to sponsors and donors. Those kinds of things are very, very important, because that's how you're going to be able to sustain the organization and be able to carry out your mission. So understanding that from up front, how you write your material, how you build your website, how you design your explanation of what you do, how you write your mission statements, your objectives. It's not for the kids you're serving. It's really for either their parents or guardians, or for those who will actually donate or volunteer services as part of your mission, so that you can actually do the things you're trying to do. So it's just absolutely essential to understand that as you craft your marketing strategy, that you really know who you're trying to target and who you're trying to message, and how they get this message. If it's and that's really actually a good segue into the next thing I want to talk about, are channels. Channels are how people get your message and how you interact with either potential customers or existing customers or past customers. And channels are things like the internet, email, phone calls. Let's say if you use social media and you have conversations on social media. If you, let's say if you put an ad out on the radio and you want people to do something, what's your call to action? If you want them to call you or visit your website or come to your store. These are all channels. It's how you touch your customers, how you interact with your customers. So going back to who is your customer, you want to understand how do you reach them, and how do they, what's the easiest way to reach them, and how do they want to be interacted with. So for example, I was talking with a potential client earlier today, and she was telling me about her organization that they want to work with children and do mentoring. And so I was explaining, and these are children being under 21. But she wanted to have a part of her organization that really reached out to these children. And she was talking about doing things like having a magazine. And so my first concern was, well, because I have a son who's 5, he's not a teenager, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews with teenagers. We've done a lot of focus groups with teenagers, and I could tell you most of them do not read magazines. If they do, maybe it's some hair magazines or that kind of thing, but even still, most of them are getting their information via the internet. Maybe either through a blog or through social media, and not even Facebook so much anymore. So a lot of things that she was planning to do and reaching these kids based on my knowing of that target market, probably wouldn't be as effective as she had hoped it would be. So, because the channel that they prefer is via the internet, not necessarily going to a store and buying a magazine or having a magazine mailed to their house. They're really getting their information quickly, on demand. They're doing Google searches. They're also looking at getting information from the information that's pushed to them from their friends or presented to them on related stories and that kind of thing. So a different strategy would be necessary in dealing with that particular type of customer, because the channel that they deal with naturally is different than the one that she had actually thought of that she was going to use. And of course, putting all that money into having a magazine printed and no one buys it, it would probably be a problem. So things like that, I think that's an example of just understanding who is your target market, who is your customer, and how do they like to be talked to, how do they like to be reached. And once again, I'll add, if anyone has any questions or anything, please just unmute your phone and just chime in. The next thing I want to talk about, or next concept I want to make sure you guys understand, but after channel, is data. Data is so important, because you make business decisions based on data. And real marketing, and people who have been in marketing for a while, they really understand that it's not based on gut feelings. It's not based on, oh, I think they're going to want this. I think they need this. I think the market wants this. It's really based on hardcore research on your target market, understanding what they want, what they need, how much will they pay for this thing that they need, if they'll pay for it, if they'll pay for it at a level that allows you to have a sustainable business. So, and all those things come from doing research, doing market research, and gathering data and knowing your target customer very well. And then once you actually start interacting with them through your business, it's gathering data, capturing data, having basic baseline reports so you can see, you can measure interactions, you can measure the volume of interactions, you can measure how much money you're making per interaction, you're measuring how many interactions per customer does it take to make a sale, basic things like that. But all these data points, and you have to figure out what works best for your company, all these data points allow you to make business decisions. So, for example, usually we recommend making decisions on data after you've taken them you've got enough data points for at least a couple months, so that you can really look at trends from day to day, week to week, hour to hour. You want to see how you're advertising. If you advertise in the morning, what kind of response you get. Advertise on a Monday versus a Tuesday or Wednesday. Advertise on social media versus via email. All these little things have a dramatic effect, or can have a dramatic effect on your response rates, how whether or not people will call you. And so that data allows you to make good business decisions. An example of this, it reminds me of years ago when I ran a call center. I wasn't responsible for the marketing part. I was responsible for operations. And one of the things that occurred was that the marketing team purchased cheap ads. And these ads, for whatever reason, they ran at hours, and they were telling people to call the call center at hours that we were not open. So these ads would run at night after midnight. We would close at 11 p.m., reopen at 8 o'clock a.m. So we would come in each morning after this campaign happened, and we would have hundreds of voicemails, hundreds of hang-ups, dozens of angry emails, customers saying, I tried to call you numerous times, all I got was your voicemail, this is ridiculous. This was really kind of before social media. People started using social media for complaints. So it was pretty much relegated just to angry voicemails and angry emails at the time. So, but operations and marketing not talking, this is the kind of thing that can happen. And also not really understanding the data behind your call volumes and your staffing. When should we have our people here versus our call volume? Not taking those things into account can cause those kinds of mistakes. But that data, though, by saying, look, well, we got 100 voicemails yesterday that said they were angry because they saw our message, but they didn't. We weren't here to answer the call. Or we look at our call monitor and it shows that we got a spike of 500 calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, but we weren't here. That's the kind of data you can use to make business decisions. So absolutely important that you find ways to build in triggers into your process that allow you to measure data, allow you to capture data, but also measure volume, to measure customer satisfaction, to measure where you're making errors, where you're making mistakes, to measure quality. These things are very, very, very important so that you can make good business decisions that affect the growth of your company and affect your customer satisfaction.
Will, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are there commercial services that are available that have data on different market segments?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one, I can tell you, if you don't want to pay somebody to do it, like let's say if you're writing if you're doing your marketing strategy, or if you're writing your business plan, the government has tremendous. I mean, they're great at capturing data. They're great at measuring statistics in the United States. Absolutely great. So places like the Census Bureau website, the labor statistics website, BLS.gov, and census, I think it's censusbureau.gov. But if you Google these websites, you'll be able to find really almost any kind of data that you might be looking for, at least based on what Americans are doing, how they're buying things in every city, state around the country. But if you wanted, but on top of that, there are research firms, there are marketing firms that specialize in doing that work for you, putting it together and presenting it to you in a way that's clean and easy on one sheet, so you can really then go ahead and make business decisions. And if you need any help finding any of them, I mean, we do that too, but if you need any help finding any companies that maybe specialize in your particular industry or area of interest, I can definitely introduce you to them.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So we're gonna and just to remind the folks who are joining, if you have a question, please just chime in. This is interactive, so please just ask any questions you like, and we'll take a few minutes to answer your question. So we just talked about data and channels. The next thing I'd like to talk about are competitors. So your competitors, I mean, obviously you know you're going to have competitors, but if you don't, you should definitely pay attention. Quite often when we write a business plan for someone or we do market research, they are absolutely unaware, quite frankly, of their competition. And the reason why you should know is because, one, if they've been in business longer than you have, they've done a lot of the hard work. You can look on their website and see the kind of language, especially if they've been successful and they've been around for a while. You can see the kind of language, you can see the kind of images, you can see the kind of marketing that they're doing and the kind of advertising that they're doing that's working. If you hear their ads on the radio or see their ads on TV on certain stations because of a certain demographics of people, certain types of people that watch those stations, it's important to pay attention to that because, one, that's going to save you some time and effort on your marketing, and two, it can give you some clues on things that might be working. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you copy everything that they're doing, but there's nothing wrong with borrowing ideas as far as strategy that other companies that are doing it well, that using those ideas to help grow your organization. Not necessarily even just your competitors, similar business models, similar businesses. If they're doing things that you want to, I like the way they do that, there's nothing wrong with using that in your own particular marketing process. Not word for word or stealing images or anything like that, but really just the way they do it. It's important to pay attention. So one thing I want you to understand is that when you're doing marketing, that when you get into the market, meaning you're saying, hey, I'm open for business, I want some customers, there's only a set number of customers. There's only 100% of customers. So when you get in, that means you're taking customers. You're taking a share of the market. When people use the term market share, that's what they mean. You're coming in and you're taking a share of the market. And that means you're taking some of those customers from your competitors. They're not going to like that, but that's how business goes. So it's important to know who those competitors are, where they are in proximity to you. Let's say if you're gonna get a storefront, say you're opening a salon, you probably want to know whether salons are in the area. You probably want to know what kind of prices they're charging. You probably want to know who are their customers, the age groups. Are these the same customers you're going to be going after? What kind of services do they offer to these customers? All this kind of information is very, very, very important and can be found either through your research online or just going out in person and asking questions, or spend some money and be one of their customers for a while. And you can really get some great information on how they're doing it and how great their service is, and maybe you can even find some areas that you can improve upon and include in your service so that you can better compete with the similar companies that are around you. All right. Well, next I'd like to talk about. We talked about data, but now I really want to talk about campaigns. Now, the importance of a campaign, essentially a campaign is a targeted message. And what I mean by that is, have you ever gotten emails that really have nothing to do with you? And if that's the case, that means that they're probably sending out, really what's called spam, they're sending out broad messages to lots of people. And probably what it does more than anything, it probably just makes people angry, or makes them unsubscribe from the list, or delete the message and not even read it. At least not after the first time, because they see that email address and they know, okay, this has nothing to do with me. So you don't want to do that. You want to have targeted messaging that really applies to a certain kind of person, that is so that they'll respond the way you want to your message. So here's what I mean. For example, let's say if I will give you an example. When I ran a mortgage company years ago, one of the ways that we would get referrals, we would painstakingly maintain our customer database. And so we would have a list of every single customer we did business with. And we would know their birthdays, we would know their anniversaries, we would know kids' names, their kids' birthdays, and not so we can stalk them or whatever. And we didn't get this information in any kind of bad way. This is really just from having conversations with our customers and just paying attention, and then just writing it down or typing it into their account later. So what this allowed us to do, so after they became a customer, they got a mortgage from us or whatever, we would stay in touch. We would say, hey, happy birthday, or hey, happy anniversary, or hey, happy. We would send cards and for their kids' birthdays, and the thing was, they appreciated it, and it wasn't just a simple, we did your mortgage 3 years ago. It's like, hey, these guys want to stay in touch. We would have events, customer appreciation days. All these things allowed us to maintain our relationship with our customers and with the community. So why is that important? So we would do, one of the ways we would get referrals was we would send an email blast out to people who have particular interest. So if we knew in our database, once again using the data, that particular people liked baseball games, we would purchase, let's say 20 tickets. At that time they were like maybe 10 or 12 bucks a piece. And we would say, hey, everyone who sends us 5 referrals today gets or the first 20 people to send us 5 referrals today via email. That's the name and the email address and the phone number of a person that we can contact and say, hey, Jim referred me to you about getting a mortgage. The first 20 people who do that, we'll give you a baseball ticket. So we would send this out in the morning, and by 1 o'clock, we would have dozens of new referrals, warm referrals, because these are referrals from people that these people knew. And when we were calling them, say, okay, thank you so much. Hey, what's, you still at the same address? We're going to send over this ticket to you. And sometimes, they would say, hey, can I get an extra ticket? And you know what? We just got 5 referrals. It really wasn't a big deal to send an extra ticket if they want to take somebody with them. Or ask, well, look, how about this? If you call them and say, or do an email and say, hey, this is Will. He's a good guy. He's at this mortgage company. Send that to all your friends. I'll go ahead and give you an extra ticket. Those kinds of things worked really well because I was sending them information that they wanted. They wanted to go to a baseball game, so they were happy to work with me. They were happy to get my email. Now, if I didn't know anything about them, let's say that they were not baseball fans. Let's say they hated baseball. Let's say they, for whatever reason, didn't even live in the area anymore. I just sent an email blast out to everybody I did a mortgage for. People moved. They hated baseball, not in the area. They would eventually get irritated by the fact that I'm just sending them just random messages. And they would start to tune me out because there's so many emails, there's so much information out there, so much noise out there. It's easy to get tuned out if you're not sending relevant messaging. So a campaign, back to what a campaign is a targeted message that you send based on information that you know that you believe will make this a message that these people want to hear. So that you don't get tuned out, so that you don't get lumped into everybody else who's just sending out blanket messages that don't really apply to them. You don't want to be those guys. You want to be the one that stands out. You want to be the one that builds a relationship. You want to be the one that sends them customized emails or customized letters, or when you call them and talk to them on the phone, you have the data, all the stuff you talked about last time. You have a database. You can see they told you that their mom was sick, or they told you they were sick. You can ask them, hey, how you feeling? Last time we talked, I took a note, said that you were sick. Are you feeling any better? Those kinds of things go a long way in building a relationship with your customer, and especially if you really mean it and you are actually concerned, it's actually much better. But even if you have folks who maybe are not as personally involved with their customers, it's a great way to build relationships. It's a great way to maintain continuity of relationships with your customers by gathering the data and having targeted messaging to people based on things that they really will care about. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, we're going to move right along. Let's talk about demographic. Okay, a demographic it's characteristics. And these are characteristics of your customers. So it might be age, it might be marital status, it might be where they live, it might be their level of income. Those kinds of things, gender, those kinds of things help you to identify them. Once again, back to that target messaging, using demographics, using characteristics of your target customer base, it helps you to work with them on a much higher level. When we do marketing research for our customers, or we're doing marketing strategy for customers, one of the things we want to know, or we want to make sure that the client knows, is what's the demographic. We ask them, do you know the demographics of your customers? And if they don't know, then we start the process of finding ways to make that happen, either through getting a list of all their past customers and doing surveys and asking them these pertinent questions, or verifying information, or calling people and saying, hey, we just want to check up on you, just make sure the right information. And we ask basic questions, but we also try and start a conversation so we can get other information too, so we can once again build that database, but also make sure we have a really great understanding of who our customers are. And all these characteristics or demographics, not just gathering them, but keeping them in a safe place and then making it so that they're accessible, so we can make smart business decisions. That's really what allows you to really grow your business.